Well, good day, guys. Great to be back with you again. Term 4, 2009. Very exciting term ahead. We've got James, and the series title is Vitals. James is all about seeing our vital signs in our faith, how we're living out the faith that we profess. So it's going to be awesome as we get into this term together. It's great to have been with in Ephesians with Graham, and really looking forward to James. I love it. It's an awesome book. All right, well, this term we've got a few changes in the way that we've been formatting the studies, just to see how that works out. We're trying to make the studies a little bit more uniform and easier to run, but still with really good content, and also helping our people read their Bibles better for themselves. So hopefully this format will give our groups a great push forward in helping to read the Bible better for themselves. Okay, well, let's run through the study. Study 1 is called Thickening the Blood. First question, spend 5 to 10 minutes discussing what stood out from the sermon this week. Now, this is a new edition, but a very helpful edition. It gives people the opportunity to give their feedback from what they thought of the sermon. Try not to go for longer than 10 minutes. And don't worry if there isn't much feedback for the first few weeks, because people will be getting used to the idea. And they'll bring their ideas as they think about it during the week and think, oh yeah, I might bring that up in study on the weekend, or during the week. Okay, read James 1 to 18. Fairly big slab, but key introduction. Now, just to give you an overview, James 1 to 18 is often seen as hitting some of the main topics which are filled out further in the book. James doesn't work like Paul, for example, in clear flow all the way through. He seems to change his topic every now and then and goes to something else, and he might hit something else for a while and then go back to something else. So James takes a bit of work to get used to, but it's a fantastic book, as I said. So question 2, ask people to do the following for 5 minutes amongst themselves, or with a partner. Now, this is pushing people to be thinking for themselves and giving them opportunity to do this. Everyone might have a piece of paper or their own notepad, or you might have some paper to hand out, and ask these few questions. People ask these questions of themselves as they sit there. Work out what they think the key themes or key subjects in this section is, and how the passage can be broken up into these things. So you might give people a printout of the Bible verse, or you get them to look at their own and then write down their key ideas. So you might decide, okay, these are the key themes, and then you might like to write a summary sentence or a title for each of your sections. Give people 5, maybe 10 minutes to do that. Don't go for too much longer than that. Don't make people feel like, oh, I have to be something really profound. They might just pick out a few key themes that they see repeating. My example there for this one is testing, verse 2 to 4, prayer in verse 5 to 8, wealth, verse 9 to 11. Then he hooks back into testing again in 12 to 15, and then talks about gifts in 16 to 18. This is a big slab, and it doesn't have the same sort of flow as the same Paul, so this is the way that I've seen that it breaks up. And I've got some explanations there about each section. Give people time to do that, and then get them to share out loud. Go around in a circle, get people to share what they thought were the key themes, and hopefully you'll start picking up, okay, this is where the passage is heading. Most people pick these up, most people pick this up, and then start bringing those out. Question 3, what are the main points the author seems to be making, and what makes you think this? And push people back to the passage. See, we want the Bible to tell us what it's about, not us come with our own idea of what the Bible's about. So some people have ideas that they'll come to the passage with, but we want to know why James wrote it, and we can work that out ourselves from the passage. So my summary of this is that James covers matters in this section that could threaten the integrity and the strength of the reader's faith. James is concerned that Christians progress to a mature, stable faith. That's what he wants. And to do this, they need to maintain a Christian attitude to potential stumbling blocks that come up in life. Now, in this section, that's pretty much my overview. That's when you get to the end, I think it'd be helpful for people to say, okay, this section generally covers a concern to see Christians progress to a mature, stable faith and be able to tackle the hurdles that come along the way. And question 4 asks, what questions have you got of the passage? Now, this is a pretty good one because it gives people the opportunity to think, okay, what troubles me in this passage? What don't I understand? Those sort of questions. Now, when people have got questions and they share them, a lot of people will have the same sort of questions. There'll be things in the passage that just don't make sense to most people on the first reading. But when they ask the question, reflect it back on them. So with each question, ask people what they think the answer could be, if you think the individual can cope with that. So if they say, who is the double-minded man that they're talking about in verse 2, where is the double-minded man? In verse 6 to 8. Sorry. Who is the double-minded man? Well, then you ask back the person, well, who do you think it could be? What are the different options? That's not asking them to give you the answer, but who could it be? And then work with them, work as a group to push back in the context and say, how could it be this type of person? Could it be that person? What else in the book would lead to you to think otherwise or think it is? Other references from the Bible as a whole. If you have questions that come up that don't get answered, tell people, well, during the week I'll do a bit more thinking about it. Feel free to send Graham or I an email and ask us a question. Do look through your commentary. So a couple of questions I reckon will come out of this for sure, which is, who is the double-minded man, verse 6 to 8. Now, this isn't the person who's not sure whether God's going to answer a particular request, but it's the person who is double-minded. They don't trust God with their whole heart. They play the odds. They sort of play it safe, like, I'll do mostly my stuff, but I also pray to God just in case. They want to push themselves forward, and they just use God as a sort of maybe a lucky charm or as a backup plan. The second question I reckon people ask is, who are the humble and rich, in verse 9. The humble brother, the brother in humble circumstances, is the one with like a single-minded devotion to God, rejoices in testing. And the rich person is reminded here that riches don't endure, that you've got to be constantly on guard against placing too much emphasis on what you can't take into the next world, the earthly riches. And James reminds both the rich and the poor Christian to remember that their sole basis for their confidence is identifying with Jesus Christ. They must look at their lives from a heavenly perspective and not from an earthly one. So there are a couple of the questions I think will come up. Fifthly, why is the gospel integral to understanding this passage rightly? I want to try and push us back to Jesus in this passage so we don't lose sight of the presuppositions that James has, is that this is all about the gospel. This is an outworking of the gospel. And my answer here, and it may be different or a little bit, be similar or a bit different, is that Jesus gives ultimate meaning to our lives. The trials, the poverty, the riches, all these things that we have must be looked at through the cross. So Jesus has saved the people for himself. We have an eschatological view about life. That means our eyes are fixed on what the eternal hope, eternal future that we have in God, and what Christ has done for us. And we live with that in the forefront of our minds. And have a squiz at Hebrews 12, 1 to 3 for some more tips there. Question 6, then what strikes you most from this passage? Everybody spend 2 minutes writing down your thoughts, then go around the group and share them together. What strikes you about the passage? What strikes you? Give people, if people come up with something that you're not so sure about, just say, whereabouts in the text did this help you to? I think you'll find that most people get some of the key points out and want to be applying it to their life. So keep working it. What strikes you in your life? And that's question 7. Where are you being most being challenged in this passage? What's God calling you to from this passage? So take a few minutes again to write down where you're being challenged, and then each person shares for a minute their challenge. So from this passage, for me, the thing that was striking for me, the challenge is the trials, but persevering in trials, knowing that on the last day, when we persevere under trial, verse 12, because when we've stood the test, we will receive the crown of life. And knowing that it's worth going through these trials, it's worth persevering and maturing and growing as a Christian because of that end goal of going to be with Christ, which is awesome. So that's what struck me. Okay, some extra application questions there for you if you would like to push further into it, because we want to keep helping our people get into application and applying things to their life, applying the Bible truths. Alright guys, well I hope you found that helpful. Look forward to seeing you next week.